about this upcoming concert here in Brazil in the Best of Blues and Rock Festival. First of all, how excited are you to be back in Brazil 8 years since your last visit?
Yeah, we always love coming down there. It's just it's always in the hands of the promoter and the manager, of when we come down and when we don't come down. But we've been there many times, and it's really fun being in Brazil. We love it down there.
Great. Well, last time you came to play at Rock in Rio in a special concert with Arthur Brown. On the same day, we had Aerosmith, Def Leppard, several other bands. Rock in Rio was not new to you as you had played with the Hollywood Vampires before, but what memories do you have of that last visit in 2017?
Well, like always, you have an audience out there, and if somebody blindfolded you, or if they told you, we're not going to tell you where you are. Yeah, when you're on stage, it's a massive audience, and you just look down there and you don't know where you are. So they of course, you would know you're in Brazil. The very first time we played there is still in the Guinness Book of Records, I think, is the biggest indoor audience ever. 158,000 people, and so, we really have fond memories of audiences down there because they, especially Rock in Rio, they were great, and they just loved the Vampires.
Yes. And since you mentioned that, I have to test your memory a little bit because this shows you played in Brazil for the first time. It's over 50 years ago. You were one of the first international rock artists to come here, and you were certainly the first to perform such large-scale shows. I know,
Yeah.
Of course, it was a long time ago, but what memories do you have of those shows and of coming to Brazil for the first time also?
Well, one thing is, like, if you take 160,000 people indoors, that's a city.
Yes.
That's an entire city. And if they all just clap, it's so loud that you can't, believe it. And especially indoors, And I just remembered it was one of the biggest events that we had ever played. We talked about that for years and years and years. We still do talk about that show in Brazil. The audience was great, but it was such an event, such an enormous event. It almost went past just being a rock concert. It was something that was just just like a magnificent event.
Absolutely. Well, at this time you were coming to the Best of Blues and Rock Festival as the headliner of one of the days. What are you preparing for the set list? Will it be something close to what you're playing right now in America, or can we expect some changes?
Yeah, it will be pretty much close to what we're doing in the States right now. And because we do all the theatrics, we do all the hits. We'll do a show that Brazil has not seen, that's for sure. And I think every single audience we've played to so far has gone crazy after seeing the show. So I've got the best band, I think, of anybody out there on the road. I got Nita Strauss, of course, Hurricane Nita Strauss on guitar. And she won Guitarist of the Decade, in Guitar Magazine. Mm-hmm. And, Glenn Sobel won Best Drummer in Rock. And I mean, the band is just full of amazing guitarists and players and drummers.
Absolutely. I have to agree with you. And especially since you mentioned Nita, you're playing with her again after that time away playing with Demi Lovato. I know, of course, your whole band is formed by world-class musicians, but specifically about Nita, what has it been like playing with her again?
Oh, she really only took a year off. She just took a year off and wanted to play with Demi for a year. And we said, that's great, because she's always going to be a member of the band. There's never going to be a time when she's not a member of the band. So we just kind of gave her a leave for a year and used different guitar players. But she was always in the band, even when she was working with Demi Lovato. But she's been with us 10 years now. And every night she brings it every night. She is one of those musicians that just, well, everybody in the band brings it every night. But I mean, she's like a show unto herself. That's what's great about her.
Absolutely. And at this same festival, there will be a Deep Purple show the other day. I know you guys have toured together. They're working with Bob Ezrin, who made history with you. And they even went to your 75th birthday party and wrote a song there. They told me before. And when and how did this relationship with Deep Purple begin?
I think, when you're in this business for so long, you meet everybody. It's one of those things where everybody. You've played with them at festivals, or you've toured with them. And Deep Purple and us go way back. We were both happening at the same time. We did a lot of shows together, and just actually knew the guys very well. They've gone through a lot of different singers and different players in the band, but it's just sort of a brotherhood. Being in rock and roll is sort of fraternal. Everybody knows everybody.
Absolutely. And both you and Deep Purple have had very long careers, and we're seeing other great bands from the 60s and the 70s that continue to perform so well. I know it's difficult to find an explanation, but what motivates you to continue performing? Because it's not just a matter of good health or money. You have to want to do it. So what motivates you to continue performing?
Well, it is funny that, I think if it was just the money, we would have retired 30 years ago. Because we made a lot of money. It's just the fact that now, if you look at the Stones, and if you look at McCartney, and if you look at all the bands that are still touring, they're doing it because they were born to do that.
Yes.
I was born to play Alice Cooper. And so I will play Alice until I can't play him anymore. I never get tired of playing the character. And I never get tired of the music. When you have a band that's all everybody's friends, and you're touring and you're seeing the world, it's impossible to get bored with it. I never get bored with doing the show.
That's great. And recently, you also announced a new album with the original Alice Cooper band. The Revenge of Alice Cooper will be released next July. You have been working with Michael, Dennis, Neil for the past few years, recording songs, doing shows, small activities. But what changed for you to decide to record a full album this time?
Well, it was very funny about when the band broke up. We didn't divorce as much as we sort of separated. And it was one of those things where we always stayed in touch. Nobody was suing anybody. There was no bad blood. So we always stayed in touch. And when I was working on my albums, I would call up Dennis and say, "Hey, Dennis, there's a song. You want to play on it?" Or if we were in town and Neil and Dennis were in town, I'd always say, "Hey, come on up stage and play on School's Out or play on whatever you want to play on." So we always remained friends. And at one point, I just said, "Why don't we just get together and make an album?" People would probably really like to hear what Alice Cooper, the original band, sounds like 50 years later. And the funny thing is, when we got done with the album, it sounded like an album that should have come out in 1975.
That's super great.
And we didn't try to make it sound like 75. It's just the way that we play together sounds like 1975.
That's amazing. Well, Robbie Krieger from The Doors played guitar on the first single, Black Mamba. You mentioned that in another interview. And you already said that other guitarists will play on the album. We know about Jossie, but can you tell us who else is on board as guest guitarists?
It's basically those guys. We didn't really use a lot of lead guitar players because Jossie played a lot of it. Played, most of it. And Robbie was so perfect for Black Mamba. You know, it was one of those things where when you finish a song and you're going to put the lead guitar on, I just went, there's only one person that can make this song sound right, and that's Robbie Krieger. Because I kept hearing this Doorsy kind of guitar, you know, that slinky serpentine type of guitar that only he can play. And he fit so perfectly in there, you know. And as far as other guitar players, Mike Bruce played a lot of the guitar on the album, you know. Of course, we all miss Glenn Buxton. The whole album is dedicated to Glenn. It was, you know, he was everybody's favorite guy. And when he passed away, you know, it was just sort of like losing. It would be like he was our Keith Richards, you know. So it was losing a very big part of the personality of the band when we lost him. Yeah. So the whole album is dedicated to him.
Yeah. And by the way, Robbie Krieger playing on the Black Mamba is amazing. I agree with you.
Yeah. And, you know, and the funny thing was, it kind of comes full circle because we were always really good friends with the Doors. You know, the Doors were always good friends of ours. And Jim and I used to drink a lot together, and we toured together and did things like that. So the fact that Robbie can still play the same way he played in 1968 is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Well, for my last question, since we're talking about the original Alice Cooper band, I also have to ask you about your first album without them, Welcome to My Nightmare, since that album just completed 50 years since its release. Looking back,
that was a gamble for me. You know, I mean, it was one of those things where I had spent my whole life with these other guys, with the original band. And it just got to a point, I think, where the band got dysfunctional. And everybody wanted to do their own album, you know. And so I did my own album, and it was with Bob Ezrin. And I didn't really expect it to be as big of a hit as it was. And so it was great, you know, to have that. And it just kept going, you know. But I did miss the original guys. I really did miss the original guys.